This is a video about a problem I had on my Goodman GMH95 series gas furnace. It's two-stage furnace, high efficiency. It's a problem that stumped me for a long time. I originally thought it was the gas valve. In fact, replaced the gas valve, but that wasn't it. And the thing that should have been obvious to me right off was, okay, here's the gas valve. Here's the connector for the gas valve. If you just disconnect this, just pull this out, well, you can see that there is an M, C, and a high pin. And when this valve initially comes on, it'll put AC voltage to between M and C and high and C because it's initially commanding high pressure. And I was only getting 24 volts AC between high and C, not M and C. And the way you do that is just put your voltmeter between these two pins and go through a startup sequence. You know, of course, you won't get any gas flow because the valve's off, but you can do some other tricks, other checks where you can put 24 volts AC directly between these two pins and just do a real quick check to see if you get any gas. And if you're doing that, then if you get gas, just very briefly, because you don't want much gas pouring out into the house, that can verify that you actually have, the valve is working, and you will get gas flow if you get voltage to the valve. So that should have been an indication, but I didn't discover that until much later. So okay, so now you're seeing, okay, I'm not getting any voltage to these two pins. Well, that could be the circuit board or the relay on the board. So that was another thing I was thinking. Well, on this furnace, to get voltage to these two pins, the voltage has to go through another switch, and the switch is right here. This switch is connected. It's a little pressure switch, and it's connected down here to the combustion chamber. So until you get vacuum on this line, this switch won't activate. The switch here won't activate. So that led me to think, oh man, that switch must be bad. Well, what happened was I took this line out, and immediately water poured out of this switch. Immediately water poured out of this line. So one thing you can do is it just takes just a slight bit of pressure, which you can do by mouth. And it's a little bit disgusting, but whatever. When you don't have any heat and you're cold, this is what you do. So you can hear it on this video. Just with a slight bit of pressure, that switch will activate. So that switch is good. The other thing you could do, just to make sure, is you can take these two connectors off, and you could put an ohm meter across there and check to make sure that that the switch actually is working. So I found I drained water out of that switch and got it dry as best I could. So let me connect that back up to the chamber. And then the other thing, then what I did was, there's a little drain here, little plug that comes loose, and water started coming out of there. So this thing was basically full up with water. And you got to be careful because there's electronics down here. You don't want the water to come down, so make sure you try and catch or drain away any water that comes out of this if this happens to you. So the problem was, over here, you can see, let me get the light. This is the setup for how this thing holds pressure in this chamber while allowing the water to drain. So that's my condensate drain down there. And there's lines here. See these two lines. One drains from the intake, and that one was fine. That's no problem at all. See, it goes down here. This was clear. I've removed all these by using a pliers to remove these hose clamps. But back in here, there's another hose clamp to this one. And this guy was the problem. This guy was clogged. So that any condensate that was coming out of this chamber here was not draining into the condensate drain. And that water backed up, and then probably was a couple pints, maybe a liter of water in that condensate in this chamber. And that was the entire problem. So I would recommend that as part of your routine maintenance, that you open it up, take those lines off, and clean out those condensate drains and make sure there's no water in your furnace. This one was fine, but amazingly the water backed up all the way from here up into this switch, and that's what was preventing me from getting power to my gas valve. Hope that helps.